Welcome to Paper Quest. I'm Jessie.
And I'm James.
And we're two friends teaming up in our ongoing quest through the Infinite Library.
Each episode, we get together to discuss our latest buddy read, swap stories on our recent solo reads, and talk about the upcoming books we look forward to reading next.
This is Paper Quest.
Alright, so we'll start with you. How many books do you have?
I have 4 books this week, 3 of which were 4-star reads, and 1 is a nonfiction, so I didn't really give it a star rating.
Okay, I personally have 2 books and 2 short stories. They're all Mistborn related, so we will start with you, and I'll just do one big thing on my turn.
Sure. So the first book I read is called There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. And this was a total Target impulse buy, 30% off. You know, they get that sticker on there. And it had a cool cover. And, you know, I'm a sucker for a good cover and a thriller. So I grabbed it. Basically, it's a story of a girl who, her name's Makani. She moves from Hawaii. And she's kind of sent there by her parents to babysit her grandmother who is having some memory issues. And she's found friends, she's started a little relationship, and she has this kind of dark past that they bring up over and over, but you don't know really what she did. And then, one by one, the students in her high school die in a series of very gruesome murders. And as these murders are happening, they're starting to hit closer and closer to home for Makani, and has to deal with her own background and history. So this was super, super fast-paced. Like I said, I definitely give it 4 out of 5 stars. What was really interesting was every 5 chapters or so, you got the next murder, and the murders were really, really, really grotesque. Like, not just a gunshot, but like flaying people and like really descriptive, really creative murders.
Okay.
So if you're sensitive to that, I wouldn't recommend it. And that's part of why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The other part is because you find out what's going on pretty quickly. Like, I would say in the first third or half of the book, you know who it is. And then it's more of chasing and tracking down that person. And so it felt a little bit more drawn out than it needed to be.
How long is it?
Maybe only 300 pages.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, so it was really fast. I guess the interesting part is then, because you know who the murderer is, the second half of the book is more this very like paranoid space of like who's it gonna be next and why. So yeah, really interesting, really good. Definitely recommend. If you see it at Target, go and grab it.
30% off. There you go.
Yeah.
Do one more. Do your next one. You have 4 total, right?
Yeah, I do. So my next one, we have talked about this series before. It is the Cape Bay Mystery Series by Harper Lynn. I'm almost at the end. So Macchiatos, Macarons, and Malice is number 9 out of 10. Again, I listened to these from Libby from my library on audiobook, and we are following Fran is a cafe owner who has solved 8 crimes in the previous 8 books. Some murders, some thieves, some thefts.
Thieves.
And she's had such a crazy year that her boyfriend decides that they need a week away, and they travel to Maine to a beautiful 5-star hotel with a world-renowned macaron French chef. And of course, Fran finds herself trying to solve another murder in the spa there. So they're going to get their like nice couples massage, and someone dies, and so she decides that she has to figure it out. It was like all the other ones. It was great. It was really fun. Again, it's a cozy mystery series, so there's a lot of like, I don't know, silly, she's ducked behind a plant and like they don't see her type of thing.
Yeah, even these cozies are, never taken too seriously.
Yeah, and at this point, like, all the players and the different voices and stuff. So it's it's like she's obviously gonna solve the murder. They're obviously gonna figure it out. And yeah, very good. I'm waiting on the 10th one. Whoever has it is taking a really long time because, like I said before, they're 4 hours long on Audible or on Libby audiobook. So I am waiting to finish this series, but I also want like 10 more.
What made you? How did you find this series? Is this a newer cozy series or?
I don't think it's newer. But I literally was just like looking on Libby for an audiobook to listen to while I was doing painting, and found it and then binged it. But
okay.
One of the not a spoiler, but one of the books that I recently sent to you as a hey, we should read this is also by Harper. So I'm interested to read a different series that she's written.
Yeah, we went through this year is flying by. We went through our list really fast of main quests, so we started having to add new books and taking recommendations.
So if you have suggestions, let us know.
Please do, yes.
Tell us about more Mistborn.
All right, so I'm going to keep it brief. I've talked about Mistborn a few times and the Cosmere in general a few times. All I will say about the previous things I've talked about is if you want to know about what the Cosmere is, we have side quest number 9 to look at. And if you want my side quest review that we did previously, book 1 is on side quest number 12. So we're going to jump right on to books 2 and 3. So at this point, having read all 3, I've done this series before, a long time ago, way back when, before there was even more. It was just Mistborn the trilogy. There was nothing else at the time. At an extremely base level, the way you can look at the series, extremely base. Book 1 is about the rise of a rebellion. Book 2 is about the start of the war, and Book 3 is about the finish line, the finale of it all. We learned last time that Vin is an Allomancer. Allomancers can ingest and burn metals inside their bodies, and depending on what metal they burn, they can pull specific powers from them. If you're an Allomancer, you have one ability for one metal. If you're a Mistborn, you can do all the metals. So that was one type of magic I discussed last time. Another one that's very integral to the book, because there's more than one magic system in this world, is called ferrochemy. There are these people called the Terracemen who use metal as well, but in a different way. Whereas an Allomancer burns the metal and uses it up and has a finite amount of power, a ferrochemist uses metal on the outside. Maybe they're wearing a type of metal as jewelry, like a bracelet or an earring, or maybe it's, just in some lump form, or on a flat piece of metal you can write on. Something, as long as they are touching physically, skin contact metal, they can store power over time as opposed to burn power. So there's a main character called Sazed, pretty normal looking guy, bald, average looking strength, etc. But sometimes, like, someone will walk into a room and he's looking very weak and skinny and he's wearing glasses for some reason. He's storing strength, so everything about him gets weaker, his eyesight, his muscles, etc. And then later on, when he needs that power, he can pull from wherever he stored it and get extra big and extra everything, and he's super powerful and has great eyesight. And so whatever you store over time, the more you store it, the more you build up in that metal, the more you can use it later on. So it's kind of like opposite or other way of doing magic than what Allomancers do. This world, as I discussed, is a dull and dead world. The idea of a blue sky or a pink flower or anything like that we know and love today is ridiculous. It's just a poor, disgusting world where ash falls from the sky every single day, and the Ska have to clean it up, and blah 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 blah. Starting in book 2 and 3, we start getting answers to why everything is the way it is. There are lots of, I think I said last time, the way book 1 ends, it's like, oh, if that's how book 1 ends, what are the next 2 books? So each book has a very different thing they have to do. And by the end of all 3 books, you get like these crazy answers, these crazy fights and crazy history lessons that really just blow up this world to like, you know, like the lore behind this book is so cool, and the series itself is so perfect. I read the 2 short stories that follow this. The one's called Mistborn: A Secret History, which is an alternate, it's like the other side of the story. Like, we're following a character that we know, but we see what they were doing while the rest of the book series was happening. So this series explains even more of what we didn't know in a separate like path, if you will. And then there was one really short story that took place before everything. It's like Mistborn 0.5, which was fine. I gave it 3 stars. It was a nice little thing of like, oh, that's how things got started. But books 1 through 3, 1 I gave 4 stars, 2 and 3 I gave 5 stars. If I could give it 10 stars, I would. And the Secret History I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It all comes together really strong. If you're following the Cosmere in general, you will see lots of hints dropped or outright explained. And what's really cool is the Mistborn: A Secret History actually jumps even further ahead for a little bit into the next Mistborn trilogy. Excuse me. And that takes place 300 years later. And so it's kind of, people say, you know, only read this if you've read through books 4 and 5 or something, or you can read it right after the regular trilogy. Just know that you're going to get slight spoilers for the future. I read it right after the trilogy because that's where most of it takes place, and I didn't want to forget what I had read. But it was cool not having read the next series to get a hint of what the next era feels like, because it's going to jump 300 years, because Brandon Sanderson always says, like, I love fantasy worlds, but why is it these worlds have existed for thousands of years and no progress is made? It's always like the villages and the castles, like, why are they not progressing? And that's what he wanted to show was, okay, what does this world look like when they enter the industrial age and it's not some fantasy setting, or the computer age, or eventually the space age? So that's going to be really cool. I can't suggest this series enough. As I've said before, you do not need to read anything Cosmere just to read Mistborn. Mistborn as a trilogy, highly suggested. Even if you don't move on to the next step, you get a full story. That is all I have for that.
Is like you said, you read the trilogy. Is there more books in the Mistborn series, or is it the start of a new series after those novellas?
So, one of the things, it was the Mistborn trilogy. He always planned it, he called it a trilogy of trilogies. It was going to be 3 books, 3 books, 3 books, each of a different era. When he finished Mistborn Series 1, he wanted to write an in-between book about a sort of, I guess, maybe I could call it industrial age. Very much like trains seem like, I haven't read this yet, but I can see, like, based on the cover, like, trains are a thing now and stuff like that. It's got very old-fashioned, like, newspaper articles and whatnot. It was going to be a one-off book to gap Trilogy 1 and Trilogy 2, but that one-off book has become 4 books, so now it's a quadrilogy of, like, trilogies. So it's going to be 4 eras total. This era was never supposed to exist, but now it does.
Interesting. Okay, well,
and it seems like it's going to focus on, I think, I could be wrong about this, I think it's going to focus on a Khandra. And one thing I didn't mention was, like, for example, in book 2, when the war is just starting, they have this issue where there's these creatures called conjurers. They know they exist. They are just like weird mass form things, and they can eat the bones of something. They can eat the bones of like a dead dog or a person or something and take its shape. And we learned early on that one of the conjure have infiltrated the hero's kingdom, which means two things. Someone they know has been killed, someone important to them because it's part of their, their effort, their group. So someone they know has been killed because the bones need to be absorbed, and also that the conjure has taken its form pretending to be them, so they don't know who died because there's no evidence of bones or a body. And now they have to go through the almost entire book figuring out who it is that's infiltrated them, and like everything's like, well, what do I say to this person? What do I say to that person? And it's funny because the main character Vin is always like testing people before they really get into things. Like she'll walk up to one of our characters and say something nonchalant just to make sure they get the right answer. But the conjure are really interesting, and from my understanding, I think a conjure becomes a main character in one of the next books, so that'd be really cool. So next time we do a side quest, I will probably have something other than Brandon Sanderson to talk about.
Yeah. So, like I said, I have 2 more books. The next book I'll talk about really briefly. It is the nonfiction book. It is 75 Hard by Andy Frisella.
So what is it again? I didn't get the title.
75 Hard.
75 Hard, okay.
Mm-hmm. So basically, this guy, Andy Frisella, he owns First Form Nutrition. So he's a serial entrepreneur. He makes millions of dollars a year, but he's really big on pushing yourself to the limits. And he kind of on a whim created this quote-unquote mental toughness challenge. It's all over TikTok. It's been around for years, but he actually wrote down his thought process and his kind of personal history and the reasons that he did it in book form. But the idea is for 75 days, you follow these 5 rules and try and push yourself. I made an attempt. I made it 9 days. And it's a lot of work to do, and it's something that I might do again in the future. But it is hard. That's what.
Is there a specific point that got you caught up? Was it the drinking? Did you miss the wine?
No. So the 5 rules are drink a gallon of water a day, follow a diet. He doesn't tell you what kind of diet, but a healthy diet. Read 10 pages of nonfiction. Work out twice a day. For 45 minutes each. One has to be outside as long as it's not like a tornado. So if it's snowing or raining or whatever, you still have to go outside. And then the last one is take a progress picture every day. And again, he explains the reasoning behind all of these very specific rules in the book. And it's really like to create trust in yourself of, even though a progress picture every day might sound stupid, that you've promised yourself you're going to do this thing that takes 2 seconds. And so it's very much like the idea of like make your bed every day is something people say is like a form of self-discipline. So it's a lot. It takes hours and hours. You're showering twice a day. You're getting up early. You're not eating the same thing your family's eating. So it's a lot to do. But I think that there's things that you can, even without doing the full 75 days, or actually he has a full year-long program.
Oh, God.
But you can still pull from and incorporate it into your life. So I'm still trying to drink a gallon of water every day. I'm still working out every day, but not twice a day. So, if I'm going to learn from it, I feel like I don't need the validation of completing the 75 days to put those things into my life. But also, it would be really cool to be able to know for myself that I did it. I haven't done it. So.
Well, having to set aside, almost 2 hours of working out each day, you got to live a specific lifestyle. Even I don't have time for that. I'm sorry. Like, I do work out, but I can't work out an hour and a half a day. I don't have time for that.
Right, and that's part of what makes it a challenge is, you know, trying to manage time and get up early. And you have till you go to bed. It's not like from wake up till midnight. Like if you're up at 2 a.m. and doing it, that's fine.
When I'm single and alone, you've got a whole family. That's a whole different.
And I will say, like, again, I'm not giving the book a rating. It's more of a manual, but it is very much like how he talks, because I've listened to some of his podcasts explaining it and stuff. And it's, you know, it's some real truths. And if you want to get real with your own, you know, I guess the general idea is you can do more than you think you can. And
Agreed. Yeah.
Pushing yourself from wherever you are out of your comfort zone. So, like, the final phase of his year-long program, one of the things is talk to a stranger every day, in person, which is absolutely terrifying for me, but it could definitely change my life. And I know that because I hate talking to people. So it's one of those things of, like, if I could get comfortable doing that, that would blow my mind. And I might do that, you know, even if I don't do the whole program, I might intentionally start seeking out, you know, speaking to people. That sounds ridiculous, but
I mean, you've done things like that before, where, you know, you've tried doing the library book club and stuff like that, and it's just about getting creative. It's not like, okay, I'm at the store and we'll just talk to somebody randomly. There's other ways to get around and do that too, which is nice.
Yeah, and well, I go daily somewhere to work out, and there's been times where someone starts a conversation with me, but it's 5 a.m. and I don't want to talk to them.
Fair.
But, like, I could take that opportunity, you know. How hard is it to ask about what their weekend was like, you know? It's really not that hard, but I also don't like doing it. So, yeah, it was an interesting book. If someone's looking for a challenge or looking for someone to say, like, hey, be better, like, read the book, even if you don't do the whole program, it's really interesting.
Yeah, just pull the parts that might work for you or that you want to work on. I can totally get that.
Yeah, and it's short. It's like 150 pages maybe. It's really quick read.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, did you have something else, or do you want me to talk about my last book?
Oh, no, yep, you do your last one.
Okay, so this book I think is pretty new. It's called If We Were Villains. If We Were Villains. I got it again on Libby. It is by M.L. Rio, and it was really good. But it is definitely the kind of book that is for specific people, maybe. I don't know that everyone would love this book, but as yeah. So as a summary, this is a dual timeline. Most of it is 10 years ago, but it is the story of, or it's told by Oliver. And when we meet him, he's just getting out of prison. He's been in prison for 10 years, and the person who put him in prison, a detective, asks him, like, all right, I'm retired, you're out of prison, tell me what actually happened. And so we get this story from Oliver. He is one of 7 young Shakespearean actors at a classical conservatory, which I believe is in New England, like up in the woods.
Okay.
And so think of it kind of like the Juilliard of acting, or like the Harvard of acting. And there's only 7 people in his class, in his, year, who have been selected. And he and his friends play the same roles on stage and off stage, which are hero, villain, tyrant, temptress, ingenue, and extras. So, Oliver is considered one of the extras. He's always got the sidekick role, or the, not the big important roles. He's never Julius Caesar in Caesar. He's never Romeo in Romeo and Juliet. And it's all written with Shakespeare at the center point. So a lot of the conversations that go back and forth are actually Shakespeare scenes. So, like, something will happen and one of them will be like, a rose by any other name, which is from Romeo and Juliet, and then the other person will follow with a similar quote. And that's the one reason I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I think it's a little bit inaccessible, because I like Shakespeare. I know a fair amount about Shakespeare, but there was so much of it that even I was like, what are we talking about right now? What is this scene? What is, like, most people, at least our age and older, know what Julius Caesar, who he was, how he died, the key players and stuff, but I feel like if you're younger, you're not going to get a lot of it.
I don't know if you and I have ever discussed Shakespeare before, but I have I just despise. I don't like anything about Shakespeare. I passionately hate Shakespeare more than I can tell you.
I believe it. A lot of people do, and I remember being in 9th grade English class, and I was all in. Like, I did theater growing up. I was really intrigued. I wanted to break down the lines and the things, and everyone else in class was like, I hate everything about this. So I definitely get it. But basically what happens is they're in their final year, and the idea is you graduate from this, and it's a Willy Wonka golden ticket to be on Broadway or be in shows and movies. Like, you're the best of the best. And these kind of roles and rivalries that they've been put into for these 4 years turn ugly. On opening night of Julius Caesar, everything turns on its head, and it goes from we are 7 friends to we are 6 friends, and 1 person has been murdered. And we don't exactly, like, we know from, it's on the back of the book, we know that Oliver went to prison, but we're not, he doesn't seem like the guy, he's literally talking to this detective, quoting Shakespeare, very soft-spoken, like, well-mannered. It doesn't make sense. And slowly he unravels the whole story and everything that happened. And it's really intriguing and really interesting. They agree, again, this is on the back of the book, they agree that they're going to keep their secrets as 6 friends to themselves and not tell the police, like, who was on drugs and who was sleeping with who and all of these kind of, secrets, because it's going to ruin all their careers. And yeah, I listened to it again, and it was really good. The voice actor or the narrator, when he does some of so there's a character named Richard, and he plays the tyrant role, quote unquote, and his voice literally is just like, there's no way I could do it justice, but his voice is that of like a true Shakespearean actor. Even if he's like hitting on a girl, it's like that deep, like very formal British.
I hear
like,
it.
Yeah, and you're just like, what the? You're just telling her she looks good. Like, what are you? Why can't you just be normal? So yeah, I really liked it. I think I really liked it because I do enjoy Shakespeare. Again, I don't think a lot of people who, like you, hate Shakespeare would get into it. But maybe I'm wrong. I haven't looked at any other reviews of this. But I feel like it's going to be polarizing. Of like, I loved every minute of it, I want more from this author. Or like, I hate every minute of it, and Shakespeare can die twice. So
That sounds about right.
So yeah, I am finally back in. I'm out of my reading slump. I'm back into reading. I am, like you and I talked about off the show, in the middle. I started a lot of books, and I have not finished them. 13 to be exact. And so I am on a quest now to finish a lot of these books. And that's besides our main quest books. So,
yeah, we actually skipped recording our side quest a few times there. I think there was one week we just didn't have an episode. It just got busy. I was moving twice in a month, among other things. I have COVID right now, which sucks. And I started a new job.
And
Yes.
my son went back to school. So yeah, lots of things going on for us personally. But we are back. We are reading some more. And we have a lot of fun stuff planned that I'm really excited to read.
Yeah, there's a few in particular main quest books that I'm very excited for. Our next episode should, be The Coffee Gets Cold, which I briefly mentioned in our last episode that we're gonna do. I think I'm minutes away from finishing it. It's gonna be interesting to talk about. I think that was we'll get into it. I think it was a play first before it was a book. But I took way too long. I took like 3 weeks to read the books I was trying to read, just 2 books and 2 short stories. But I'm ready for some new books. I have some nonfiction I want to get into again because I really liked the last nonfiction book I did about the octopuses.
Mm-hmm.
And
we have another favorite swap coming up, so we're swapping one of each of our favorites.
Faves.
Yep.
Yes.
And so
I forget what yours is, but I know it's coming.
Yeah. I don't remember what yours is either, but I'm very excited for it. And there's just a lot of books that I'm very excited for. So hopefully I keep on this pace. We keep on this pace. Because, I have a pile that's just like, I want to read it all at once, and that's physically impossible.
Too many of my books are so long. That's why all the like the Mistborn books are like 500 pages, 600 pages. I gotta find some shorter ones to slide in there.
Yeah, I've realized I need those breaks of this is quick, I can finish it. This is a graphic novel, or it's a 200-page thriller, or whatever. Like, I need those to get out of the longer ones.
Yes, you walk into a bookstore, you see a big, thick, colorful, beautiful epic fantasy novel, and you wanna buy it, and then you realize, wait, I can't read this and everything else in 2 weeks.
Yes, and I already have more books that I want, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna finish these, and then I will go buy that book, so I have some incentive. But
my goal is to finish every book on my shelf before going through my Goodreads list, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so please rate and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us at Paper Quest Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and TikTok. We have been posting much more frequently. And leave us a comment so that we know what books you're reading. If you have any fall books that you really think we should read, or that we would love, or that we would hate. I know one of the Halloween books I'm reading is it called Leaves of Grass? I don't know. It's Leaves of something. It's like the scariest book ever. And you've read it.
House of Leaves?
Sure. That sounds right.
I don't know.
But I'm planning to read that, and I'm a big scaredy cat, so.
If it's that book, though, I have not read it. My brother owns it and has read it, so maybe that's what you're thinking of.
Oh.
It's the weird book, right, where the text is all written weird and.
I believe so.
Okay,
I just have been told it's like the scariest book to read, and.
Interesting.
I get scared watching children's shows, so I've decided I'm gonna read it.
Well, all the show notes have the links and the sites and everything. There's a $1 Patreon for early access episodes, and we will keep you updated on our main quest schedule on the top of the pinned Facebook post. But until next time.
Bye.
Bye.